Hey, welcome to another episode of Read with Force, Five Oaks, Rachel Carson Educators. I am here with friends today. As always, my friend, Mrs. Perenboom. Hi, Mrs. Perenboom. How are you today?
I am great, Miss Zomerman. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm flipping-tastic because of the teachers that we have with us today. Mr. Morrison, Miss Balzar, thank you so much for coming on Read with Force.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Ditto. You can just say that the whole time. Ditto. I am excited to introduce them to you, but we are going to peel back as many layers of both of these teachers as we can today. So let's get started.
Yeah. Well, I went to art school a long time ago, and then I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't really think it through. So as a senior, I was like, oh man, how am I going to make a living? So there was a book publisher that came to my college, and she said, we were having artists and illustrators that are getting in fights, and we need somebody who will do the writing and the illustrating. And we also need artists who like to research, because they said a lot of artists don't like to research. So I thought, oh, I need a job. I'll do it. So that led to my first book, and it was a nonfiction book. And there were nonfiction books that were supposed to take kind of maybe dull or maybe technically intimidating information and make it more accessible to the public, teachers, kids, whoever was interested. Like this is my teacher. It's David McCauley. He's done these books, and I used to go to his studio, and he'd kind of teach me how to make stuff. And
Mr. Morrison, while you're showing the pictures, can I remind the kids that they might have seen David McCauley's books in their elementary and middle school library? He won the Caldecott Award for his Castle book. So I know that David McCauley's books are well known to some students.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you studied under him.
Yeah, he'd always sign them. It's kind of fun. He had a studio in Rhode Island. I'd go out there and just good memories. He's a great guy. And so my senior degree project in college was a book, and it's a lot like the projects that kids do in school. And it was, I brought a few, so I'll go quickly, but it was basically process books. So there was a lot of how do people do things. So this was, how the news was reported in the Civil War. And this is about a couple years of research. And then this one was different. This was about basically a mother cheetah's day, and it's in Korean, so it's kind of fun to show this to kids.
Wait, that has a gold sticker on it, Mr. Morrison. Did that book win an award?
It's funny. It won an award in Korea. So the publisher sent me one. I said, "Wow, what's this gold thing?" I said, "Oh, the American publisher didn't know." So they had to go and find out.
Wow.
I'm still not sure what it says. And here's one called Tsunami Warning. This is about how they detect tsunamis. They created a warning system. This is kind of fun because it relates to our geology targets in 8th grade. Here's a book, How the West Coast was mapped. In the before there was GPS or helicopters or any kind of sophisticated mapping technology, they had guys with drawing pads out there mapping the coast because there were so many shipwrecks because the coast was not accurately mapped. This is the 1850s. And this one was translated into Japanese, so that's fun. This is a buffalo nickel. This is about how one of our most interesting coins was made. And actually a publisher said, can you explain, a bunch of teachers said, could you explain minting? Because I don't have any books on how coins are made. And then if you combine a process like with how coins are made with an actual interesting story, it makes technical information much easier to learn. So that was fun. This one, we're doing evolution right now in 8th grade. And this is the first fossil skeleton that was discovered in America. And we're talking about this with the kids right now, but this is at a time when people didn't believe in evolution. They thought if you found a skeleton, that animal still had to be alive. So they found the bones of this animal that they believed to be a carnivorous elephant. But and they thought it was out in the woods. And what the skeleton helped to prove is that, yeah, you can find the skeleton of an animal that does not live anymore. So it's kind of fun stuff. And Oh, here's Wildfire. This another one that Miss Zomerman has. And then I thought I'll try to go quickly, but I'll go through the process really.
This is amazing.
So these are sketches. I work. My book that's still at a publishing house right now is about oil rigs, and I went down to a oil rig in Houston, and I took notes with engineers, and it's got some water damage because it was raining. But what was really neat about this is that these guys did the forensics on the Deepwater Horizon. That's the oil rig that blew up before a lot of our students were born in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's an investigative book about why that happened. So, but anyway, I try to talk to kids about research, and actually Mr. Balzar and I have talked about, like, you need to do more than one draft. So here's another one. That book on Wildfire that you had up a minute ago. These are some of the notes for Wildfire. So these would be interviews with fire ecologists, scientists, doing fire weather, things like this. So this is like a couple years of research right here, interviewing scientists and things like that. And then it's got sketches. And I would go to fires. I got some firefighter training. And that's why I like to take kids outside in nature, because when you go explore things, when you get out of the classroom, your sense of curiosity really kind of takes off, So, and sorry, I'm having show and tell time. This is a storyboard. So this comes after the research, and actually we have you collect the information. It's like a pyramid. We have a strategy like this at Five Oaks. First, you collect the information, then you boil it down. This would be a storyboard. This would be for the coast mappers. This book here. So before you actually do the finished book, and a lot of times kids will jump to the end of a project, they want to finish it. But if you do the planning, so these are really rough, and this is laying out the color and a rough outline of the story. This is a 48-page book storyboard that is a plan. It's like writing an outline for a paper. And then the last step, and this is kind of the icing on the cake. This actually takes the least amount of time as making the final artwork. This would be a paint, because most of the time is research and editing. And then this would be a painting. They used to, it's all digital now sometimes, but these paintings used to need to be flexible because they would put them on a printing drum, and then the printing drum would spin around, and the laser would take the picture of the picture. But the illustrations I do now, they're all like, I love to work by hand, but they're uploaded on computers. So, I got one last. This is a painting from the Civil War artist that actually exploded on a printing press. And my editor called me up and said, "Hey, Taylor, man, I'm sorry, one of your paintings blew up," and it blew up a $30,000 printer. So it's kind of a fun little art. Oh, well, that's a good question. I kept doing these STEAM workshops, STEM with an A, so it was STEAM, like science, technology, engineering, and math, and then they would add art to it. So I'd do a book, and then I'd travel around the country to Houston or Connecticut or Texas, or and then they'd want me to come in and try to enliven science with some kind of class. And then I kept doing it, and I liked it. But then I'd get to know the kids a little bit after a month, and then I'd be gone, And I thought, I've been teaching so much like that. I wanted to get my master's and do it like full time.
Okay, I originally went to school to be a theater major, and I got 2 classes shy of finishing that, and then I lost all my funding, so I hit the streets for a while and became a waiter for 15 years. And then during that, my friend Guy Major was coloring comic books for DC Comics, and he used to pay other people to prep his pages for him to do coloring digitally, like Taylor was saying. And I started doing that for him just to make a little money on the side. But then before I went to engineering school officially, I always have kludged things together, make tools do what they're not supposed to, machines do what they're not supposed to, tear them apart, destroy them, sometimes fix them. And so I'd figured out a way to make a gaming controller, increase my my work output by 4 times. So I replaced his entire work crew and was making a lot more money doing it. And so then I was making enough money that I went back to school, went and got an engineering degree. But at the end, from the place we were living at, I didn't want to do engineering because I didn't want to start at the bottom. I was too old. I didn't want to take, commands from a 20-year-old punk, me being 35 at the time. And so at the last moment, I switched from mechanical engineering to general engineering. And that saved me from 2 of the most torturous mechanical engineering courses. And I got to take 3 of the funnest courses. So I think I dodged a fluids 2 and a vibrations 2, and got to take cars, motorcycles, and robots. And so, I took general engineering, so I could also take a couple education courses, and then went straight into doing a education certificate program. And then started teaching engine repair because I had enough experience to do it. Came up here and was teaching engineering for a little bit in PPS, and then went over to Beaverton and been teaching science for the last 4 years now.
That is so amazing. And I love your wall background behind you.
Thank you.
Really digging that. Is that something you drew on your wall, just
Well,
straight to the wall, or is that paper on your wall?
There's paper on my wall. Well, I enjoy it. I love making stuff, drawing stuff and making stuff. So Taylor has and very similar process. Taylor has that storyboard, and it's so beautiful. And all this little micro pictures he's already made into micro portraits, and then the beautiful finished product. Mine is a different tack, but very similar path. So, they're for me. And so lots of notes, sketchings, and iterating. Here's, kids, I'm stressing, draw stuff and iterate. One drawing is not enough. As Mr. Morrison said, it's not one and done. It's a process. Early renderings of different configurations of things, mechanisms in there, ores. And then you can see that they start actually rather simple. And as the ideas start to get refined, they get a little bit more technical and a little bit more refined. And they start zeroing in on a final product. So they're getting more complex. And now, kids, math. Ah! Oh, crud. I had to figure out if this steering radius was realistic with 2 hydraulic cylinders. It's not. That's the answer. First, you have an idea and you're like, I want it basically to look like this. And then you got to work on details. More math. So here's the bike being built.
Wow.
See if I can get to side configuration, top. There's a good 3/4.
I never want to hear a Five Oaks middle school student complain about science in 8th grade ever. Mrs. Perriman and I did not have science teachers like this growing up. I can promise you 100%.
No.
So this is stuff people pay a lot of money for that you guys are getting for free.
I really love the Norse tales, like Thor and Odin and the Greek mythology. I had a book, Dalry's. I don't know if it's still in the library, but I must have read that 20 times. The mythology, I just thought it was so cool.
That's too bad that Percy Jackson wasn't around when you were in middle school. You probably would have liked that one.
Yeah, I would have loved that.
That's awesome. What about you, Mr. Balzar? What kind of reader were you in middle school?
I think I was just figuring out not how to read, but how to read. I knew how to read, but to read stuff. I think what sparked me was I watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and realized how much more twisted the book is than the movie. And so that started with a lot of Roald Dahl. And then again, like another, like, I think Stuart Little, I don't remember if there was a cartoon back then about it, but then I did E.B. White, and that's E.B. White, Stuart Little.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think right around the beginning of high school, like right in 8th grade, I started picking up, and I wish I could remember exactly what it was because I want to read it again. It was something about some dream warriors, and it was really cool. And I read it all in one day. Like, it was a 500-page book, and I just ate it up in one day, which never had happened before. I don't have any idea. It was not like an amazingly acclaimed book, but I ate it.
That's a great question. I guess I'd ask what their interests are first. And, if they're into plants or music or cooking or building cars or, yeah, I guess it'd start there. And then we could go in and,
Same
look
question.
around.
He's so considerate.
Yeah, he's more considerate than me too. I'm like, oh, you have to read this.
I've been coming through I'm imagining the scenario where I get asked that while I'm in the library walking through to class. I'm like, okay, kid, come here. All right, here's science fiction, fantasy. Here are my favorite novels, these things. And here's the astronomy section. This is these 4 that I've read here. And here's the technical section where I think you should read about material science because it's just the weirdest thing. Materials are whack, man.
Everything that Mr. Balzar and Mr. Morrison talked about today can be found in the 600 section of the library. So if you want to know what they were talking about today, science and drawing, actually the drawing part is in the 700s, but engineering, even the wildfire book, that is all in the 600 section of the library. And so Mrs. Perenboom and I would be happy to show you that or where to find that in the Destiny Library catalog.
You won't be able to find the wildfire book anytime soon though, because that one's gonna have to come home with me so I can show my kids.
And you will know that while we don't have all of Mr. Morrison's books right now, we will soon. There are too many in there that I need to read, of course, to make sure that they're good for all of you to read. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Morrison and Mr. Balzar, for being here on Read with Force. I can't believe how much you have shared with us, and I am so excited for all those kids to just be inundating you with emails and Canvas messages for all they want to know. Thank you so much for being here.
That was fun. Thank you so much.
All right, kids, until next week and another episode of Read with Force, make sure you are reading, make sure you are checking out books, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.